Wow, the Vancouver Whitecaps are the top of the Western Conference. What a world we live in. Yeah, there's your little tiny version of a cold open. Welcome back to Soundwaves from the Sea. Owen Murray to my right. Well, technically my left, and I don't know. I'm Charles, as some people know. No Michael this week, unfortunately, just timing wise, he's unable to do. We're doing this Monday morning. Um, The Sounders are in an interesting place, as they've been all season. They've been the last time we talked back on March 24th. They've had three matches since. Oh, seeing things. Hopefully nothing's happening. Okay. You never know. Um, since we did our last episode, they sit at, as Owen was saying before we started, 11th in the Western Conference, um, with 9 points, nine mighty points on the season so far. Through eight matches played, two wins, three losses, three draws. The last time we talked, when we were looking at the San Jose match and wondering how things were gonna go, and I think all things considered, like how banged up they were, um, their failure of success, lack of success against San Jose, um, in recent memory. I'll take a draw. I'm not happy about it, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
No,
Um,
I think the disappointing thing about that game though is they absolutely dominated in terms of shot, like 26 shots to 10 by San Jose, four big chances,
Christ.
65% possession. Let's even get an XG over. Yeah, 2.86 XG. It feels like there should have been. It definitely felt like there was more in this game for the Sounders. And they paid it off with a late goal, but there could have been more.
Yeah, was it Albert was in that one?
It was.
Albert. I will never hate Albert Rusnak, my goat. Not really. Yeah. So, normally maybe I'd feel fine with it, like considering I feel fine with the fact that they had actually dominated the statistics part of things, but not a lot with this team excites me right now just because of how things have gone and how sad I've been about how I felt the beginning of the season. And I think that was kind of accentuated with the match in San Diego, right? Because April 5th, first match of April, first time they've played, this new side in San Diego, and they were wiped all around. Um, and all three of these goals came before halftime, right? Goal in the second minute, goal in the 41st, um, and in stoppage time of the first half. So it's funny enough, you want to go back to the X. I know XG is tricky, right? But San Diego only had zero point 0.3 more expected goals than the
Yep.
Sounders did. Seattle dominated the total shots and big chances. Um, and I don't think they played that bad overall, but that stretch there was just a collapse, right? At least, I don't know if you saw from that. Um,
It was actually pretty similar from what I saw to the LAFC game they just played against San Diego. LAFC lost 3-2, but it was the same
mm,
thing. San Diego scored three goals before halftime. LA was able to get two back. I think either side of the half, but you kind of saw that same deal where San Diego, sorry, is going to go just all in the first half and really try to overwhelm, and it's working for them. They're able
mm,
to, especially at home, get goals like that. But just because, especially on the counter, they're so confident, and so able to really push and have a knack for that final pass.
yeah, no, that makes sense to me. It's interesting to see that. Um, and I'm always intrigued with expansion sides to see how they do. So just I guess in a vacuum, I'd like to see San Diego do all right. Maybe not the way they did against Seattle. Not in that fashion. And not to really kind of bring them to rock bottom, right? I think it was Christian Roldan who said that this was rock bottom. I could be wrong on that, but I know a sounder did say that in the post game, and I'm like, wow, this is great. Uh, and I didn't really feel too great heading into the most recent match against FC Dallas on the road. I think our friend Michael pointed out that they had not beaten FC Dallas in lovely Frisco since 2014. Um,
Seems like there's a lot of these teams.
yeah, and yeah, despite all of like the consistent success the Sounders have had, like there's a few of these where it's like, wow, you just haven't. Hmm. Um, and as Owen pointed out, uh, this isn't the happiest win you'll take. It's a win, Seattle wins on a 17th minute Danny Musovski goal that was really created by a Pedro de la Vega shot.
Yeah.
That basically left a sitter for Danny Musovski, which, hey, fine with me. I will take the goal. Nice to see Danny get on the score sheet in that regard. Um, but the rest of this match did not look too great. I mean, we're gonna go back to it. Seattle had like a whole expected goal above Dallas. Dominated the shots again, so there's a consistency there at least. Oops, nope, I went down the commentary. That's not what I want. Foot mob. Sorry. FC Dallas did not have a shot on target. Oh my God. But they did have a big chance missed. That's funny. So yeah, that kind of brings us to this point. Like over the last few matches since we've done this show, you've got a draw, ugly loss, and a tight win. You could maybe say an ugly win. I think that's what Michael called it basically on his post. Um, where are you, Owen, with this team right now? Because Jordan and Pedro are I said back, and you were kind of like back, sure, because Jordan was available off the bench, did not play because I think Brian said that they were they were wanted to be cautious about it, is from what I understand. Um, so and obviously Pedro got the start. From a friend of ours, Maz, Ryan Kent has his visa, so we could see him pretty soon, right? Um, where are you at with the Sounders right now? Because there's all of this that we've just talked about, and their next match is at home. So I mean, they get to come back home. I know it's not, a cure all, right? But I mean, it doesn't hurt to be back.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you said before going on this road trip with the state they were in that they would go 1-1-1 and win in Dallas, I think you'd be okay with it. I'm curious what Ryan Kent and Pedro de la Vega do for this team right now because it seems like finally chance creating isn't the issue. I mean, I was gonna talk about this a little bit, but let's see, 12 of their 16 shots in the Dallas game came after Danny Musovski scored his goal, so they're pushing for second half goals. I felt like that was happening in the San Jose match too. Even after they scored the Roosevelt goal, they were pushing for the winner, um, which is something I like to see. I feel like over the past 2, 3, 4 years, a lot of the times they score the first goal and then they just close up shop. They lock it down, and that's not happening anymore. But I'm curious what these new players are going to do because the one thing that came from this road trip is that they were really able to dominate possession, dominate uh, chance creating, dominate big chances, um, and couldn't put them away. And I don't know that either of these two wingers is going to be the solution to that problem.
So I guess in that regard, to push it forward, obviously being able to finish is a big thing, right? But um, what else do you need to see from Seattle? Well, I was gonna say that like ask that question, and also remembering that Jackson Reagan got hurt in this Dallas match, if I remember correctly. So that's not great. Um, yeah, I mean it's easy to say you need to finish your chances. Like that's something that both teams currently under the Carlisle ownership group, I would say, because the Rain have looked solid this year, but if they finish their chances, they're undefeated right now, I'd say. And you could say that about a lot of teams, right? But what do you need to see from Seattle right now? Because I mean, I think largely, at least lineup wise, we've seen some. Oh, that's one thing. Also, maybe that's a separate thing. but I see the 3-4-3 is not very well loved around here. Um, and I've seen a lot of people saying that it needs to be scrapped. Maybe that's a separate thing if you want to talk. But I'm just asking, what do you need to see from the Sounders right now to make this match against Dallas? Yes, it probably should have been a better scoreline, um, but it's a win. It's 3 points, right? What do you need to see from them to make this a launch point and not just sort of a little blip, and then they go back to kind of struggling and being middling? I know they're not anything better than middling right now, but you get the point.
Okay, yeah. I'll address the formation thing first. And my take on it is that I don't think it really matters. I think three four
Hmm.
three is essentially what the attacking shape of this team looks like anyway. And I think we've talked here about the pressing structure and how that changed.
Ah, yeah.
But I think that's a separate discussion. And I think that people see a different lineup on the graphic and they're like, it's all going to change. And it's really, at least from what I've seen, not that different.
Mm,
I mean, because they're always going to push somebody high and wide on the left, whether that's Georgie, or if that's a different winger on the right. The non De La Vega rolled on winger is always going to push high and wide. They're always going to rotate Alex Roldan into the midfield and Tuck Nuhu in next to the two center backs. I don't see a ton of difference, and I think it's fine. I think it's okay, and I think it's a better way to reflect maybe how this team plays. In terms of what you want to see from this team is consistency. I think that this season has been pretty up and down in terms of you had the absolute high of the 5-2 win, and they haven't gotten back there. And I'd love to see consistency in these shot numbers and this chance creation, in the XG. If they can create, gosh, this is a high number, but like 2 XG per game. If they can
mm,
do that 4 games, 5 games in a row, that would alleviate a lot of the pressure. And then you're just saying we need a finisher, which is what
yeah.
you're always saying. But that's the game, right?
Um, I guess what's kind of interesting as well, and maybe you've got better answers for this. Oh, and well, I wonder if this plays back to what you said preseason, right? Because I we did our sort of hot takes or thoughts on the season preseason, and you were worried about the defensive numbers and how the defensive play would look. And I mean, numbers wise, it hasn't been great. And at training last week, Brian had a very interesting quote. Um, Obviously after the San Diego match, which when you lose 3-0, I mean, no one's going to be happy, right? But Schmetzer says you can't have 6, 7, 8 guys not performing, um, which is, pretty. I mean, it's honest and I don't think it's inaccurate. I don't know. What are you seeing defensively? Because I mean, was it? I think it was 11 goals conceded in their first 7 league matches. Um, None in this one against Dallas, which is great. Um, but yeah, I mean, for a group that is largely the same, uh, it doesn't seem like them per se. I don't know. What are you seeing defensively to see that sort of structure? I mean, struggle. And is it something that can? I was gonna say be fixed, but if you're losing a Jackson Reagan, it's not great to miss someone of that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how Kim Ki looked um, coming on
Yes, that's right.
from last night. I think that it's good to have a player who, when you're losing a guy like Jackson Reagan, who like not only is a fantastic defender, but brings now as a what third-year starter some of those intangibles. Bringing in a guy like Kim Ki who won the Champions League, who's played internationally, um, is a win. Absolutely. Um, I'm curious about his communication with Yamar, but I don't know how much of that
Mm,
we've been able to see yet. Um, and I think this season as a whole kind of just feels like a little bit of regression to the mean, from a team that has
mm.
been absolutely like lights out elite the last 2 years. Um,
Interesting.
which I don't know if we were expecting, but like I can't think of that many games in the last 2 years where this team has conceded 3 goals. Um,
That's a good one. I'm gonna write that down.
in a game, but like in a game where they weren't. It wasn't. They just had to drop everything and attack in a knockout game.
Yeah.
Like like in a genuine game where it was a relatively balanced game state the entire time. I can't think. It's been a while since they've conceded 3 goals. And if it hasn't, it doesn't happen that often. So I think, yeah, what we're looking for is, I mean, when we're talking about consistency in chance creation, we're talking about consistency in defending as well, because that's what kind of has been lost this season. Is they've had some lights out performance. I mean, say what you want, but they I don't think they've conceded a goal from Texas this season, um, unless they've played Austin yet.
Mm-mm.
No, so no goals from Texas this year, but you drop a couple to LAFC in that game, you 3 to San Diego. That it's tough. So consistency once again.
Oh, consistency. I wish so many of the teams around here had some consistency. Like,
That's the hardest thing in sports, right?
oh,
Consistency.
absolutely. Yeah, no, you're shooting for that. I mean, like, going to practice today. If they looked how they've looked since the trade deadline this year, they're comfortably in a playoff position, and I'm gearing up for playoff coverage. But we're not. It's also funny to talk about this team, you know, with where they're at right now, and remember that Rusnak is hurt, Alex Roldan is hurt. Um, like this team, I don't know, man. Like it's been such a weird year for them. Like injuries happen in sports, right? That's just
Absolutely.
you have to account for that. You have to prepare with that depth wise. We talked about the depth of this club early into the season, before the season. Um, yeah, you expect that. I don't know if you could expect what's happened to Seattle with Morris going down, Pedro going down, uh, Alex taking with Dent, Alex Roldan taking it. I said Alex, Albert, sorry, didn't mean to say him twice. You know, now Jackson Reagan. Like that's a lot of your key players um taking some sort of hit. Jesus. Yeah, that's hmm.
I think the
um
depth has been pretty good though. I'm curious what you
yeah.
thought of Kalani Kosarenzi. He's got the start again on Saturday.
He, after the outside outside of his what was it, his Open Cup goal last year at Starfire where he did the giant backflip. Um, I didn't really have him as a guy on my radar to sign a first team contract this year. Um, but I mean, I'm not gonna complain. Like I've especially because what they had him sort of listed out wide to the right this past match.
Yeah,
If I remember
he's
correctly.
he's in
Yeah.
the Alex Roldan role. I think he's
Yeah.
comfortable rotating in there,
Um,
which is great.
which I was annoyed about because the MLS website has him in a Tacoma Defiance headshot. So my graphic has everyone in normal headshots and then Kalani. What are you gonna do? Yeah, no, I mean I'm yeah, that's a good question actually. I had kind of forgotten that he got the start. Not because of his play, but because there's just too much going on. Um, I mean, I'll take, from a guy who's 22 and is filling in here for, one of your more versatile players, right? I'll take, 85% passing and a chance created. Like, sure, he's the lowest rated sounder on this page per FootMob, but I'm gonna give him a little bit of a pass. Um, just given that is this mm, has he gotten other starts before this? I don't think so. Do you remember?
I would be surprised if this. Hold on, I'd be surprised if this was his genuine first start, but it could have been. No, I think he's honestly a really great kind of fit for that Alex Roldan, and that's what
Yeah.
happens when you get to learn from a guy like Alex, just an
Yeah.
absolute veteran who like can just teach him. Now, he started 3 games this season. Um,
Okay. Yeah, I just saw the Salt Lake one. Okay.
some of
Yeah.
those might have been Champions League. But no, I'm excited to see where he goes in terms of consistency because that's something you look for in a young player, but also just
Mhm.
making use of the minutes he can get, especially after Alex Ravon, we assume eventually returns to the starting 11.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the thing with depth, right? You need guys who maybe you didn't expect to play key minutes to step up. And yeah, when you talk about a guy who could fill in the Alex Roldan role, that's a pretty good option. Um, amongst the others. Yeah, no, it was nice to see Kim Ki-hee back and available in this one. I know that's someone where people are like, hey, what the hell's happening? Um, so yeah, I don't know. They are just such an interesting club to me. Um, in terms of what's happened with them and who will, be a contributor throughout the course of the season. I also keep forgetting, I think as we talked about in our like preseason stuff, that you've got Andy Thomas kind of hanging out. Like, I'm not saying you need him right now, but he's around. He's a solid keeper. It just feels tough that you signed him to that little 2-year extension and he's just kind of hanging out. Um, And that's not at all a complaint about Steph Fry. I find it funny that you've gotten more than a more than capable keeper on the bench, and he's hanging around. Um, yeah, I went to look at the lineup. At least Reed's back, so you've got Reed Baker Whiting back. Um, yeah, that's good. Okay, because he's been out for a while. It's just interesting to keep
Yeah,
track of who is still healthy, and who's not. So. Um, this one's maybe kind of like sidebar-ish, not too critical. What have you seen from your two young sort of wingers in Paul and Georgie? I've seen some anger with Georgie that he might be a two-trick pony. I was like, oh, um,
what are the two
I
tricks?
I understand that they're young. Um, I was hoping that, maybe a Paul or a Georgie would, help, provide some spark in scoring with this club. I understand it hasn't happened. I understand, maybe it's a tougher weight to put on some younger guys, but I don't know. What have you seen from them? Because I know there's been so much excitement from them over the last year and into this season. This is more personal curiosity at this point. What have you thought of them so far this year, considering that they're young?
I think what this club does really well is it makes young players look old. I think it makes young
Hmm.
players look like they've been there for a while. And I
Ah, I
don't,
see what
but but I don't know that we've seen that from these guys yet. They look like better versions of last season.
you're.
But kind of with some of those same pitfalls. They're very they're both confident with the ball. They're both able to really push it. But if a game starts to not go their way, it's kind of tough to bounce back. If Georgie, we've talked about his finishing before, but he'll keep pounding the one on ones, but if it starts to kind of not go his way, not much kind of happens outside of it. On Paul's side, he will. I remember watching a couple of the games this year and just thinking he got really isolated out on the left, um,
Oh,
and felt kind of cut off. Um, and it works a lot of the time because he tracks back and he's an unbelievably hardworking guy.
yeah.
But we'll just start to not get fed and almost seem like he loses confidence in himself a little bit. Which is what happens to young players. Um, but I think it's noticeable because that doesn't happen a lot to players in this system. That like they don't all as soon as a guy like Christian Roldan steps in this team, as soon as a guy like Jackson Reagan steps into this team, they look like they've been starting for 3 years. And that's not what these guys look like, and that's okay. Um, absolutely, but it's just what it is.
Yep. All of this and remembering that the FC Dallas match we talked about only had about 11,000 people in it. God, that was weird. What are we doing? Yeah, all right. So, um, hmm, yeah, no, it's always kind of cool to do this, especially because, the last few weeks I've kind of been in and out. I was technically in California when the San Diego match happened. I'm glad I was in San Diego. I was in San Jose. Um, but someone was like, actually, the Sounders are in California. I'm like, yes, I know. I'm very well aware of it. I'm just gonna be in a different part of the state. Um, yeah, dude,
This next
I
month
don't
is
know.
starting to look that there's some scary teams coming. I mean, you have to play Portland, you have to play LA. Colorado isn't looking like an easy team to beat, and then you run into San Diego and
Again.
Vancouver again before the
Mhm.
Club World Cup.
And
This
Minnesota,
next
Minnesota's second in the West right
Minnesota,
now.
that 3 game, 4 game stretch where you have to play LAFC, Portland, you play Dallas, and then San Diego, Minnesota, Vancouver. That's going to be an unbelievably. I don't know
Right
how
into the
often the
Club
Sounders
World Cup.
play, but I don't know how often the Sounders play defining stretches like those before the break. It always feels like those stretches happen
Mm,
in September or October, and now it's in May and June.
yeah.
Um, so it's going to have to ramp up quickly. Got to show up, be consistent, play old.
There's your sentence for this episode is be consistent, play old.
Championship mindset.
Yeah, we'll
Just
pull it
saying
back
words
one
now.
older one.
Just saying words.
Um, you got anything else, buddy, before we look to the next one?
Uh, Go Ducks.
God damn it. I don't know what I expect. Yeah, no, it
We're
was
kicking off
great.
the spring game. It's gonna be great.
Oh yeah. I was walking by, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was seeing our women's tennis team. Um, and I walked by Husky Stadium and they were doing their
Mm.
coaches clinic. I see Sean McVay get out of an Escalade and we make eye contact. I was like, huh,
Well, he
am
knows
I
who you
like,
are now.
is like a sniper staring me down from 200 yards right now? Should I be looking at him?
So I
Um,
mean, the Cardinals are gonna be giving you a call pretty soon. I hear you've got
oh,
an open
for
OC
sure.
spot. Yeah,
Yeah.
offensive and
Oh my God. Okay.
I touched Sean McVay once.
Um, what a madman. No, it was great to do this after a few weeks. Just
Yeah,
Wood had tried to get me to do it, but I was, in and out of the area. So I was like, I don't want to make you have to do something while I'm inconsistent timing. So hopefully we can get back to doing this normal. Hopefully we'll get like Mike back or I don't know who. Maybe we'll get someone else. After the Nashville match, um, April 19th on Saturday at 4:30 start. So we're kind of afternoon, that's fine. Against Nashville, normal Apple TV viewing, unfortunately. I still get comments complaining to me about that. I can't do anything about it. I am not Big Apple. I don't know what I want to do. Um,
Nashville Sans Walker Zimmerman, Sans Tyler Boyd,
oh my God. Brian Acosta, no.
no Brian Acosta. But however, Nashville that has beaten Real Salt Lake, so it is
Oh
what
my
it is.
God. Won three of their last five, six in the West. Okay. I mean, like a win. I mean, East. Sorry. Oops. Um, I guess I'm thinking of Nashville in the NHL that is in the Western Conference. Um, a win for 3 points for Seattle pushes them to seventh, hypothetically. So
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see.
It'll be nice to get back home. Like again, I know it's not the cure all, but just to be able to get back home, like they'll have the full week of training. Uh, Brian Kent? Question mark. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have something
Um,
new to talk about next time.
oh, God, I gotta make sure we get photos of him. Okay. All right. Well, it was funny. I guess this last thing before we get out of here, our buddy Moz, who we've talked about a few times now on this show, um, told me he's just Paul, like tattoos. Like I'm like, okay, all right. So because I haven't been around training, unfortunately, with being in and out of the state. He was like, yeah, he's just Paul, just a little taller. I'm like, okay, we'll see. So, yep, April 19th, Saturday, against Nashville, 4:30 p.m. start at Great Old Lumen Field. Um, yeah, well, until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. So where are you going to watch all of the Sounder away games this year?
Away games for the Sounders. Since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great idea. Go Sounders. Hope we see you all here.